This is a revision video for a PSYA3 topic of gender, and it's to discuss cultural influences on gender role. It's a revision video, and each slide that you're going to see is essentially a paragraph for the model essay in the right order. So it is actually the whole of a model essay. I've also made a memory story to help you remember all 12 paragraphs, and I'm going to put that on a different video and put a link in the description for you. If you would like a copy of the PowerPoint that accompanies this video, then tweet me at blonde_pretzel and request one. If it was me, I would probably cut it up and make revision cards out of it. And then when I was watching the memory story video, I would use them, to look at them as I was going through. Cultural similarities, division of labour. One aspect of gender role that appears to be universal is the division of labour. In most cultures, men hunt and otherwise provide resources, while women look after children and prepare food. Munro and Munro found in a cross-cultural study that every society has some division of labour and behaviour between genders. This universality suggests that gender roles are biological rather than cultural. Cultural differences in aggression, Mead. A second aspect of gender role is differences in aggressiveness. Mead, 1949, observed that in all three of the cultures she studied in Papua New Guinea, the men were more aggressive than the women, though she also observed differences between cultures where some women were more aggressive than women in other cultures. This has been described as cultural relativism. Aggression is innate and universal, but the degree to which these behaviours are expressed is relative to that particular culture. Cultural similarities in gender stereotypes, Williams and Best. Sex stereotypes that each culture has affect gender roles. Williams and Best studied gender stereotypes in 30 countries in a study involving 2,800 students as participants. They were given 300 adjectives and asked to decide whether each one was more associated with men or women. In all countries, men were seen as more dominant, aggressive and autonomous, while women were more nurturing, deferent and interested in affiliation. This also suggests that gender roles are biological rather than cultural. Conformity, Berry et al. Conformity is also related to culture, as there is a general consensus across cultures that women are more conformist than men. However, this difference varies across cultures. Berry et al. Reported that differences in conformity between men and women are highest in tight-knit, sedentary societies, such as the Amish. This shows a cultural influence on gender role. Alternative explanation for division of labour, AO2. There is an alternative explanation for this finding that division of labour is largely universal. This division may be an indirect outcome of biological differences rather than a direct outcome. Eagly and Wood's biosocial theory suggests that physical differences, for example women bearing children and men generally being physically stronger, lead to social role differences, which in turn create psychological differences. This suggests that social and cultural factors explain role division. Eagly and Woods analysed buses data. Eagly and Woods supported this view by analysing buses data on sex differences in mate preferences. Bus found that men seek physical attractiveness while women seek resources. Eagly and Woods found that in cultures where women had a higher status, sex differences in mating preferences were less pronounced. This suggests that cultural and social factors are the driving force in gender role, not biological factors. Also, Cohn et al. 2014 questioned the temporal validity of Munro and Munro's finding that division of labour is universal. They found that in the last 25 years, stay-at-home dads have quadrupled. Some cultures have more universal labour divisions, Hargreaves. While labour differences are the same in most cultures, some cultures have more unusual labour divisions. For example, Hargreaves observed that in some parts of the world, women are the major agricultural producers, while in others, women are prohibited from agricultural work. This suggests that although biological factors are significant in the division of labour, it can vary greatly between cultures. Alternative explanation for cultural differences in conformity. There is also an alternative explanation for the cultural differences in conformity. In societies where women contribute a lot to food accumulation, women have more freedom and are regarded less as objects for male sexual and reproductive needs. Women, thus, occupy a higher position within the social group and have more power and less need to conform to the wills of more powerful members of society. This further supports the role of cultural influences. Mead's research into gender role is questionable. Some of the research into gender role is also questionable. For example, the study by Mead mentioned earlier has been criticised by Freeman, who himself worked with people in the same cultures who claimed to have simply given Mead the information she wanted to hear. This suggests that her conclusions are not made on valid data, rather they're based on demand characteristics. However, Freeman's version has also been criticised for being inaccurate. Williams and Best research, low population validity, and questionable questionnaire. The study by Williams and Best also drew criticism from the wider scientific community. One reason is that the questionnaire featured no neutral option when rating the masculinity or femininity of each adjective. Participants had to choose either male or female. This could cause the divisions between male and female to be exaggerated. The participants were also all university students who might be exposed to many of the same influences. This indicates low population validity, and this could explain the high level of consensus. Cultural bias in much of the research. Cultural bias is also a problem for much of the research in this area. For example, the cross-cultural study by Williams and Best used a questionnaire designed by Western researchers containing Western concepts and stereotypes. This is an example of an imposed ethic, which can render a study invalid. This is because the concepts used in the questionnaire may have different meanings in other cultures, and people may simply respond in terms of Western cultures rather than their own. Finally, it's a deterministic approach. This approach is also often seen as being too deterministic, regarding gender role as purely a social construction while ignoring proven biological influences. While the differences in gender role between cultures show that gender is influenced by culture, the universals in gender across cultures suggest that biological factors are also significant. The final conclusion is that there is a complex interaction between cultural and biological factors.